U.S. missiles sink China's spy rig in the Caribbean. 50,000 tons gone in 90 seconds. World stunned.
January 12th, 2026, 0400 hours, the Caribbean Sea. The humidity here is a physical weight. It presses against the lungs, thick with the taste of salt and sulfur. At sea level, the darkness is absolute, broken only by the rhythmic white-capped heave of the Atlantic Ocean pushing into the Venezuelan basin. But 400 feet above the waterline, the sky is burning with artificial light. This is the Haiyang Shiyou 981. To the casual observer, or a commercial satellite passing overhead, it is a masterpiece of industrial engineering. A semi-submersible oil rig, displacing 50,000 tons of water, anchored like a fortress in the deep currents north of the Parai Peninsula. It looks like commerce. It sounds like industry. The low-frequency thrum of its diesel generators vibrates through the water column for miles, a mechanical heartbeat that scares away the sharks. But if you were to strip away the yellow paint, the rusted gantries, and the decoy drilling derrick, you would find something that does not belong in this hemisphere. Hidden inside the lattice structure of the main drilling derrick, masked by frequency-selective wind walls, behind panels of radio-transparent fiberglass, are four massive hexagonal arrays. These are not looking for oil. They are looking for F-35s. This is not a rig. It is a forward operating base, a listening post, a challenge. And tonight, the physics of this massive steel island are about to change. The calm is a lie. The math has already been done. To understand why this metal giant is floating here, you have to look away from the water and look at the map. This is the definition of the Monroe Doctrine being shredded. For 100 years, the Caribbean was an American lake. It was the safe zone, the soft underbelly. But geopolitics hates a vacuum. While Washington watched the Pacific, Beijing bought the debt of Caracas. And with the debt came the access. This rig represents a strategic checkmate. From this position, that hidden radar, a modified version of the system found on the Type 055 Renhai-class destroyer, can see deep into the Gulf of Mexico. It can track commercial traffic out of Houston. It can paint a target lock on aircraft launching from Florida. It turns the entire southern approach of the United States into a denied zone. The value of this asset is not measured in barrels of crude oil. It is measured in terabytes of intercepted data. It is a billion-dollar listening device parked on the front lawn of the world's remaining superpower. If this rig stays operational, the balance of power in the Western Hemisphere shifts permanently. The Pentagon knows this. The White House knows this. And somewhere deep beneath the thermal layer of the Caribbean, a crew of 135 sailors is about to do something about it. Let us look closer at the antagonist, the threat. The Haiyang Shiyou is a semi-submersible. That means it floats on massive pontoons, submerged 80 feet below the surface to escape the violence of the waves. These pontoons support four colossal structural columns, hollow steel legs that hold the main deck high above the water. It is a design built for stability. It is built to survive hurricanes. It is built to survive rogue waves. But it was not built to survive the specific type of violence heading its way. The secret heart of this beast is the Type 346 Dragon's Eye radar. It is an active electronically scanned array. In the world of electronic warfare, this is the apex predator. Unlike old mechanical radars that spin around like a lighthouse, this system doesn't move. It stares. It uses thousands of tiny transmit-receive modules to steer beams of radio energy at the speed of light. It can track hundreds of targets simultaneously. It is the same technology that makes the Type 055 Renhai class the Dragon of the Sea, a 13,000-ton Leviathan designed to challenge carrier dominance. The engineers who hid this radar inside the rig were clever. They used the heat generated by the drilling equipment to mask the thermal bloom of the radar's cooling systems. They used the chaotic radio noise of the rig's communications gear to hide the radar's side lobes. They thought of everything, except for one thing. They assumed their enemy would play by the rules of peacetime. They assumed they were safe behind the shield of plausible deniability. But then, the rules changed. 80 miles to the north, deep water. The Virginia-class Block V submarine is a predator that does not need to breathe. It hangs in the black water, silent, motionless, a hole in the ocean's background noise. It is an apex predator in the deep, carrying enough firepower to decapitate a regime without ever breaking the surface. Inside the Combat Information Center, the atmosphere is frigid. The air smells of recycled ozone and tension. There is no shouting, no drama, just the rhythmic clicking of trackballs and the soft glow of waterfall displays. The captain watches the fire control solution solidify. The weapon of choice tonight is the Tomahawk Block V, the kinetic enabler. HOAC, the first day of war solution. This is not the dumb missile of the 1990s. This is the maritime strike Tomahawk. It is a subsonic messenger of destruction that can fly through a window frame after traveling 1,000 miles. It possesses a seeker head that can discriminate between a tanker, a frigate, and a specific structural pylon on an oil rig. The plan is not to blow up the radar. That would be messy. That would be obvious. The plan is to kill the rig itself, to exploit gravity, to turn the rig's own weight against it. The firing solution is set for a time-on-target impact, 12 missiles, 12 distinct flight paths, all converging on a single second in time. Now, we must stop the clock. We need to understand the physics of the violence we are about to witness. This is not a video game. This is structural engineering weaponized. To sink a ship, you punch a hole in the hull and let the water in. But a semi-submersible rig is different. It is a balancing act. It relies on something called the metacentric height. Imagine a pendulum. As long as the center of gravity is below the center of buoyancy, the rig is stable. It wants to stay upright. But if you shift that balance, if you flood one side just enough, the pendulum swings. And if it swings too far, it doesn't swing back. It capsizes. The target points for the Tomahawks are the structural columns. These are the knees of the giant. They are made of high tensile steel, inches thick, reinforced with ring stiffeners to withstand the crushing pressure of the ocean. A standard high explosive warhead might scorch the paint or dent the plating. But the Tomahawk Block V carries the Joint Multi-Effects warhead. Here is the mechanics of the kill. The missile does not detonate on impact. That is a waste of energy. When the missile strikes the steel column at 550 miles per hour, the kinetic energy alone is like being hit by a freight train. The nose of the missile is a penetrator. It punches through the outer steel skin. It smashes through the inner bulkheads. It buries itself deep inside the hollow leg of the rig. Then, and only then, does the fuse trigger. This is the delay. Milliseconds of silence. Then the main charge detonates inside the confined space. The overpressure has nowhere to go. It rips the steel apart from the inside out. It triggers a catastrophic fluid hammer effect within the ballast tanks. The column doesn't just break, it unzips. When you sever two of the four legs on the starboard side, the physics takes over immediately. Loss of buoyancy. The starboard corner drops. The 50,000-ton deck loses its horizontal footing. The cargo, drill pipes, cranes, the hidden radar arrays suddenly becomes a sliding avalanche of steel. This is known as the free surface effect, coupled with a rapid shift in the center of gravity. The result is not a slow sink. It is a violent, catastrophic topple. A 50,000-ton structure doing a somersault in slow motion. And the crew inside, they are living on a timeline that has just been cut to zero. Back in the control room of the Haiyang Shiyou, the coffee is lukewarm. The air conditioning hums at a steady 68 degrees. The crew commander is looking at a logistical report on diesel fuel consumption, unaware that he has exactly 30 seconds left to live. On the main tactical display, the Dragon's Eye radar is sweeping the airspace. It sees the commercial airliners over Barbados. It sees a weather front moving in from the east, but it does not see the 12 sea-skimming shadows rushing toward it at Mach 0.7. The Tomahawk is a terrain-hugging predator. Over land, it hides behind hills. Over the ocean, it hides in the clutter of the waves. It flies so low that the salt spray coats its optical sensors. Then, the anomaly. The passive electronic support measures on the rig's derrick pick up a spike, a radio altimeter emission. It is faint, fleeting, like a whisper in a hurricane. The electronic warfare officer frowns. He adjusts the gain. He taps a key. He sees 12 distinct signals. The blood drains from his face. He doesn't scream. He doesn't panic. He freezes. It is the paralysis of a man watching a math equation resolved to zero. He reaches for the intercom button, his finger hovering over the red plastic guard. He never pushes it. Impact. The first Tomahawk slams into the northwest structural column, 10 feet above the waterline. The sound is not a bang. It is a physical slap that rings the entire 50,000-ton structure like a church bell. The hardened tungsten carbide encased warhead shears through the 2-inch outer steel plate as if it were wet cardboard. The missile buries itself inside the hollow leg. 0.02 seconds later, detonation. The JME warhead ignites. The blast pressure inside the column spikes to 40,000 pounds per square inch. The steel walls cannot contain it. They bulge, they rip, they fail. But this is not a random hit. This is a symphony of violence. A coordinated, time-on-target strike. 1 second later, 3 more missiles impact the remaining columns. Then 4 more. Then 4 more. It is a jackhammer rhythm. Boom, boom, boom. The structural integrity of the rig evaporates instantly. The northwest column, now shredded and venting fire, loses its ability to support weight. The laws of buoyancy have been repealed. The rig groans, a sound like a dying animal the size of a skyscraper. It is the screech of metal shearing past its yield strength. Gravity takes the wheel. The rig lists, 5 degrees, 10 degrees. Coffee cups slide off tables. Chairs tumble across the command deck. Men are thrown against bulkheads. The list accelerates, 20 degrees. The massive derrick, the crown jewel of the disguise, is now leaning out over the open ocean. The leverage is catastrophic. The steel bolts securing the derrick to the deck perform one last act of defiance, stretching, heating up, screaming, and then snapping. Snap, 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 the derrick breaks free. A 3,000-ton tower of steel crashes into the sea. The splash creates a tsunami that swamps the lower decks. The impact registers on seismographs in Caracas, but the nightmare is not over. The collapse has severed the connection to the seabed. The high-pressure gas riser, the pipe that connects the rig to the reservoir below, ruptures. Ignition. A jet of natural gas pressurized to 5,000 psi meets the sparks from the tearing metal. The result is a flamethrower 300 feet long. A torch of blue and orange fire erupts from the waterline, engulfing the capsizing structure. The ocean itself seems to catch fire. The heat is so intense it blisters paint on the lifeboats before they can even be deployed. In the span of 90 seconds, a billion-dollar strategic asset has been converted into a debris field. The massive pontoons roll over, exposing their barnacle-encrusted undersides to the sky. The rig capsizes completely. The radar arrays, the secret servers, the encrypted hard drives, all of it is dragged down into the dark, crushing embrace of the Caribbean deep. The water boils as the air escapes the submerged compartments. Then, silence. The fire on the surface burns itself out. The waves return. The white caps roll over the spot where the fortress used to be. Let's look at the scorecard. The cost of 12 Tomahawk Block V missiles, roughly $24 million. The cost of the Haiyang Shiyou 981 and its hidden electronics, estimated at $1.5 billion. The exchange rate is brutal. But the financial loss is irrelevant. The real loss is the data, the eyes, the ears. For the last 6 months, that rig was the anchor of a denial zone. It forced the U.S. Navy to route its carrier groups hundreds of miles off course. It compromised the launch signatures of every rocket leaving Cape Canaveral. Now, that zone is open again. The ghost on the radar screen has been exorcised. This was a lesson in modern warfare. We tend to obsess over the high-tech specs, the hypersonic speeds, the stealth coatings, the lasers. We forget about the basics. We forget that every weapon system, no matter how advanced, eventually has to obey the laws of physics. If you can destabilize the platform, the sensor doesn't matter. If you can tilt the floor, the computer can't work. The Virginia-class submarine that fired the shots is already gone. It never broke the surface. It never made a radio transmission. It simply turned south, slipped back under the thermal layer, and vanished into the Atlantic Trench. A silent assassin leaving the scene of the crime. But make no mistake, this was not a secret operation. The satellite photos of the burning rig will be on every desk in Washington and Beijing by sunrise. The message was sent in clear text, written in smoke and sinking steel. The question you have to ask yourself is this: was this an act of war, or was it industrial sabotage? The lines are blurred. The battlefield is everywhere. And as we just saw, the difference between a drilling rig and a military base is often just a coat of yellow paint. So, If you were the commander sitting in that submarine, watching the sonar confirm the target was destroyed, would you feel safer? Or would you be wondering what comes next? Because in this game, the other side always gets a turn. Fair winds, sailors. Keep your head on a swivel. If you can be seen, you can be killed. See you in the next one.